What's up guys, welcome back to another TK Tech video, and today we'll be talking about the best free note-taking apps for Android. This video is a bit longer than usual, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So today we'll be focusing on applications that support handwriting, and we'll be judging these apps based on 5 different categories: design, features, pen support, organization, and synchronization. The first application we'll be looking at is Samsung Notes. Now obviously this app is exclusive to Android tablets, but I think it's fair to say that most Android tablets that have stylus functionality are Samsung tablets. So Samsung Notes has a clean, simple looking interface. It's very easy to access all the features. You can see that we have a toggle on the left to allow us to maximize and minimize the menus. Everything is clearly displayed. We have an orange plus button at the bottom here, which allows you to create a note. It's quite modern looking with all the rounded corners, and all in all I think it's quite a basic design, but it works well. There's not really much else to say to it, so I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10 for design. Now Samsung Notes comes with plenty of features. The first one I'm going to mention, which is one that I really like, is that you can access Samsung Notes from any screen, any application. All you have to do is take the S Pen, double tap on the screen, and it'll open Samsung Notes. This is a quick way to take notes down. It doesn't have to load up the application, and you can just jot down your notes really quickly, save it, close it, do whatever you want with it, without having to actually go into the application. Now when you go to actually make a note in Samsung Notes, you start off with the option to type up your notes, which is good. Not all of these applications I'm looking at today have the function to be able to type up notes. So on Samsung Notes you can type. You can also write. Now looking at the typing side, as you can see, we can change the font size, we can make it bold, we can make it italic, we can underline it. We can't actually change the font style, but everything else with the font you can pretty much do. You can add bullet points and numbers. So there's quite a few functions in terms of this, in terms of your text and their styles and what you can do with it. What I want to focus a bit more on is actually the handwriting notes. Now the first thing I want to mention is that you can't change the default lines. They're quite light, so they're not very intrusive, but you can't change the spacing, you can't change the style, you can't, for example, make it a grid or blank depending on your type of work. You can change the background color, but I just find that quite weird because it doesn't change the background color of everything, it just changes where you're writing. I don't really like the way that looks, so I keep it on white. Now the good thing is that you can write in the same page where you've added your text. So it's not like you have a separate page for text and a separate page for your handwritten notes. It can all be done on the same page. So you can text, you can write your notes if you want to draw, for example, or annotate or put some arrows, flow diagrams, then you can carry on typing. Another great feature is actually you can search for the words that you've written. If I want to search for name, I can search for name, and as you can see, it's picked it up. Now you can attach things to this, so you can attach images. So as you can see, you can attach the image, you can adjust it, crop it if you want. Now the problem is though, is that you can't actually drag it around quite easily. It doesn't have it, yeah. You can type around it and you can draw around it, but you just can't seem to move it around after you've placed it where you want to place it. That's something that I don't really like. I'd like the flexibility to be able to put images, resize them there and there, drag and drop them where I want to drag and drop them. That extra freedom can help when you're writing notes. What you can't do though is attach PDFs. This is something that I don't like. You can't annotate some PDFs on Samsung Notes, which is something that personally I need, which is why I don't use this as my primary note-taking application. Now when it comes to the options for writing, you have quite a good range of pen types. Fountain pen, normal ballpoint pen, you have pencil and highlighter. You also have a range of colors as well. You have pretty much an infinite amount of colors that you can go for. The sizes are in stages. You have these 5 thicknesses, but that's not too bad, there's quite a range. You also have the ability to favorite pens and colors. So for example, if I always use this ballpoint at a blue color, I can add that to my favorites, and if you see on my favorite list, it will come up with that pen and that thickness and that color so that I can easily access it. Now you can cycle through your favorites by clicking the button on the S Pen away from the screen. So I'm writing in blue, click it away, now I'm writing in red. Now this is good when you have 2 or 3 pens in your favorites, but once you have like quite a few, let's say you have 5 different pens, it'll take you a while to cycle through them each time. So it's easier if you just press and click it. Another good thing is that you can erase really easily just by holding the button on your S Pen and touching the stylus on your screen. I also like the selection mode where I can essentially select the text that I've written, and then it highlights it, and I can essentially manipulate it, move it around, make it bigger, make it smaller. I can also edit it afterwards. So after you've written something, let's say you've written in a particular color or a particular thickness, I can go in and edit it. So I can, for example, set it to a red color with a large thickness, and then you can go, and once you touch it, it changes to that setting. Another interesting feature that Samsung have introduced is the ability to change your written text into typed up text. So for example, if I write and then I click on this button here, it changes it to text. Now I have the option to copy it or to convert it. If I convert it, it will change it into the text format and keep the color the same. Samsung Notes also has an easy line and shape tool. They've implemented a tool where whatever you draw, they will correct. So for example, if I draw a circle, it will make it into an actual circle. If I draw a square, it will make it into a square. It can also draw straight lines, which I like. For example, if you want to draw tables or underline a piece of text, you can draw your line, it will straighten it out for you. Then you can click and hold and then manipulate it. So you can make it larger, smaller, move it around. The problem with this though is that you can't erase parts of it. So if you've drawn a circle and you, for example, you just want to erase part of that circle, you can't. And you can't actually erase it with the eraser. The only way to get rid of it is to either undo or long press and delete. So I don't like the fact that you can't erase certain parts from those shapes that you've drawn. I think that covers all the main parts for features of Samsung Notes. I say it has a lot of features in it, a lot of features that I really like. There are a few things that I didn't like about it, so I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Next is the pen support. As you can expect, as this is a Samsung application and it's on a Samsung tablet, the pen support is the most optimized it can be. So for example, it has good pressure sensitivity. If I press lightly, it comes out thin. If I press harder, you get a thicker line. You get the idea. Not only does it have pressure sensitivity though, it also has tilt functionality. Now what I mean by this is that it can recognize if the pen is tilted. Now just like a normal pencil, when you're writing straight, the line tends to be quite thin. But when you put the pencil to the side, the line tends to be thicker. This is quite a cool feature. You may not use it much, but it just makes it feel more realistic. As we touched on before, Samsung Notes also supports the S Pen fully, so you can use the button on the S Pen for multiple functionality. We showed how we could erase and switch between our favorite pens, for example. Now when it comes to latency, it's probably the most optimized application for it. Latency essentially is that time period between when your pen touches the screen and when the pixels show up. So when you're writing slowly, you can't really tell. But if I do large strokes, you can see that there's a gap. Unfortunately, one of the limiting factors for this is the refresh rates. This is a 60 Hz panel. Generally, with higher refresh rates, you can get better latency. So this is the best that it can get on this specific tablet. It's also worth mentioning that there is good palm rejection, so you can easily, rest your hand on the tablet and write, and you won't get any improper inputs. I also like the fact that it distinguishes between the stylus and your fingertip, so you can scroll with your finger and write with your stylus. So pen support, I'm going to have to give it a 10 out of 10 because obviously this is an application designed for this tablet and for this S Pen, so it's the most optimized, and so we'll have to compare the pen support of all the other applications to this. Now the next category is organization. Essentially there's only one layer of organization that you can do on Samsung Notes. By one layer I mean there's only one set of files that you can make. If you click the tab, you can see your categories on the side, and then you can switch between your categories. That's good, but what I would like to see is the ability to then, when you're in a category, maybe have further folders that you could get into. This is another reason why this is not my main note-taking application, and overall I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Now the final category is synchronization. Now what I mean by synchronization is how easily can I get my notes that I've written, for example, on the tablet to my phone or to my laptop. Now when it comes to Samsung Notes, that's quite straightforward. You just have to download the Samsung Notes app. Once you're signed in with your Samsung account, they sync up exactly the same. So I can open the exact same notes. Whatever I edit on my phone will show up here. Whatever I edit here will show up on my phone. What you can't do though is access your notes online. So there's no way to go into someone's laptop or computer or the library computer, for example, and access your notes online that way. So that's quite disappointing. I would like that feature. But in terms of synchronizing between your own personal devices, it's very, very easy. It does it by itself. It's not like you have to go and upload it to the cloud manually. So for synchronization, I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10. This gives Samsung Notes a total score of Okay, so the next application we're going to be looking at is OneNote. OneNote also has a very clean, modern, simple design. But the difference is with OneNote that the design and features will change depending on your interface. So if you're using it on a mobile or tablet, its design and its features will differ than if you're using it on a PC or MacBook. This is actually a really good thing. It means that Microsoft have realized that different platforms need different designs to complement the different requirements. Overall, you can see that everything's clearly laid out. It's quite a colorful design. You have the options at the top for what you can do on the page, and then on the side you have the panel to see all your notebooks as well. There's not much else I'm going to say for design. I think it's very good, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So we're going to move on to features now, and although we said features will vary depending on the interface, we'll be focused on the app version. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new page. As you can see, similarly to Samsung Notes, you have the option to type in text. This is fairly standard, but the difference here is that you type in text in text boxes. So you can type in text wherever you want on that page. So if I press here, I can then type here. Then if I press down here, I can carry on typing here. And then you can drag and drop the text wherever you want it to go. So this gives a bit more flexibility in the text that you write and what you can do with it. You can also change the boldness, the color of the text as well, add bullet points. The additional thing here is that you can also change the font. This is not something that you could do on Samsung Notes, but it's something that's available on OneNote. Now, one of the main reasons why I personally use OneNote for my note taking is the fact that I can attach PDF attachments to it. So if you go on Insert and you click the paperclip, as you can see, you can essentially add any type of attachment you want. It could be an image or a PDF document. The good thing is that when you do attach a PDF, as you can see here, attached a PDF, is that you're not limited to just the PDF. You can actually zoom out and write around the PDF as well. So for example, in my case, where I annotate my lecture slides, I can write around my lecture slides after I've inserted it as a PDF, and not necessarily just be limited to the space I have on that PDF to annotate. You also have the ability to search for words. So for example, if I search wound, as you can see, not only does it pick up my handwriting, but it also picks up text. So it will pick up text not just in the page that you're looking at as well. It will pick up the word from any piece of text or any notebook that you've written, and it will display them on the side. Okay, so now let's focus on the writing aspect of it. As you can see, there are plenty of colors available. In fact, you can click on each pen and then you can choose between a range of colors. It's not the unlimited gradient of colors that you find on Samsung Notes, for example, but you do get a wide range, which is probably enough for what you want. The same thing goes with the highlighter. If you click on the highlighter, you also get a range of colors as well. I would prefer the ability to choose from the gradient of colors so that I can choose whatever color I want, but that's not available as of yet on OneNote. Similar to Samsung Notes, you can set presets, but in this case, the presets are all shown. So for example, you can set up to 4 pen presets and up to 2 highlighter presets. This means that you can quickly switch between your most common used pens and highlighter colors. The disadvantage, I guess, is that there's only one kind of pen type. So for example, in Samsung Notes, you have the option to type in various different pen styles. In this case, you're limited to this ballpoint style of pen. You also have the option to select what you've written and manipulate it, make it bigger, make it smaller, move it around. And I also like the fact that if you go onto view here, you can have some flexibility with your paper background. So you have ruled, grid, and you can hide your lines. Not a lot, but more than that was available on Samsung Notes. But you also have the ability to change the page color. So you have a wide range of these neutral pastel kind of colors, which I guess could help with the aesthetic of your notes. So when it comes to functionality, I think OneNote has got a lot of it covered. It's limiting a bit in the pen color options and styles, but the ability to add PDF attachments is worth a lot more to me, and for that reason I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now moving on to pen support, we can see that it does have pressure sensitivity. So light presses, hard presses. Unlike Samsung Notes, it doesn't have that tilt function, but that's not that big of a deal anyway. It does seem to have a slightly slower latency than the Samsung Notes, but when writing normally, it's not something that I can tell. This is also one of the few note-taking applications that supports the S Pen. So like before, we can press the button and touch the screen and it will erase what's on it. Overall, I think the pen support is good. Not as good as Samsung Note, so I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. Now when it comes to organization, this is one of the areas that OneNote really shines. As you can see, you have the section for notebook, and then in the notebook you can split it into different sections, and those different sections you can then split it into different pages. I would prefer the option to have an unlimited amount of folders and keep adding folders in folders in folders, but for most people I think this would be enough, and for that reason I'm going to give organization a 9 out of 10. So the next section is synchronization. OneNote, as it uses Microsoft's OneDrive, it probably has the best synchronization of any application that I've used so far. As you can see, I've downloaded OneNote on my phone. If I open it, I get exactly the same notebooks as I do on my tablet. Unlike Samsung Notes, it synchronizes to the cloud automatically. However, what sets this apart is the fact that you don't need an application to look at your notes. You can view your notes online from any device as long as you have the Microsoft account. This means that if you're using a library or a university shared computer, you can still access your notes without having to actually download a software or application. Therefore, for this reason, I'm going to give OneNote an absolute perfect score for synchronization of 10 out of 10. This gives OneNote a total score of... Alright guys, I just want to say that if you're enjoying this video so far, if you're finding it useful, please hit that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me. This video took quite a while to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a like, and if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button. Okay, let's get back into it. Okay, so the next note-taking application that I want to look at is Bamboo Paper. Now this is probably the most simple and elegant looking note-taking application that I've seen. It's very easy, very intuitive to learn, and you can start taking notes straight away. What I really like about it is the fact that your notebooks actually look like notebooks. It's not just a tab on the side. I don't think it offers any practical functionality, but it just looks nicer this way. I also really like the animations. They're very smooth, very quick. It just makes this application feel modern and user-friendly. What I don't like though is the fact that you can't resize your notebooks. So for example, if you have 1 or 2 notebooks, then I guess it's okay to have them side by side. But if you have 10 different notebooks, I prefer them to be smaller, or at least there to be the option of it being smaller and spread across your page so you can see them all. As you can see, this way I'd have to scroll through them left to right, which just is a bit more tedious. All around though, I like the design, I like the way everything's laid out, I like the simplicity of it. It might be a bit too simple, and for that reason I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Now when it comes to features, it's got a good amount. Unfortunately, this is a pure handwriting application. There's no text input possible. First of all, you have to start by choosing the type of notebook that you want. So you have 4 different options of notebooks. Then each option of notebook has its own set of paper backgrounds. So for example, if I go onto Thinker, you can see that the type of backgrounds that we have are largely lined or grids. But if I, for example, go on to Maker, now we have a larger variety of paper backgrounds. Now unfortunately, you can't change the backgrounds. So for example, I can't go into a notebook and then have one page have it grids and then the next page have it lined or blank, for example, if I just want to draw on that page. Now there aren't that many pen styles, so you do get these 6 options. It's more than what OneNote has, but not as much as the Samsung Notes. When it comes to colors, there is an infinite color that you can choose from. So you can pretty much choose any color that you want. But when it comes to thickness, you're limited to only 3 thicknesses. Now this is not enough for me because even the thinnest version, I still find it a bit too thick. I would prefer if there was a larger range of thicknesses that we could choose from. Unfortunately, there isn't an option to preset pens, and there's no option to favorite them either, so you would still have to switch between them and change the colors each time. You do have the ability to import images, as you can see. You can even take a picture, but you cannot import PDF files. So for example, there's my TKI logo, and animations, like I said, are probably the smoothest out of all the applications. Very easy to move around and place where you want. So the features are similar to design. There's a few there, they're quite simple. The ones that are there, they work well, but for me personally, I do wish there were more. So for features, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Now when it comes to pen support, it's a bit hit and miss. It has some features that I didn't expect, but it is lacking in others. So like all the other applications we've tested, there is pen support. As you can see, thin line, thick line. Now what's surprising about this is that this is the only third-party application that comes with tilt support. So as you can see, when the pen's upright and then when the pen's to the side, it has very different thicknesses. However, it doesn't support the button on my S Pen, so this does nothing, it doesn't erase, it doesn't select, and also it doesn't differentiate between my finger and the S Pen. So for example, if I want to flip pages, you can't just flip pages with your hand, you end up drawing on the page, you have to click the arrow at the bottom. Personally, I just like to be able to swipe through with my finger and then write with the S Pen, but it doesn't differentiate between them, and that's kind of annoying sometimes. Now I also want to clarify that yes, although it doesn't pick up the difference between your S Pen and your finger, it does have palm rejection. So once your pen is close to the screen, it will no longer pick up any input from your finger or from your palm in this case. Now another surprising feature that this has that no other application has is its eraser functionality. It's probably the best eraser implication of all the applications that I've tested. And what it does, it uses the speed of your stylus to determine how large an area to erase. So if I move my stylus slowly, you can see that the lines are very thin. But once I go very fast, you can see that it gets much larger and you can erase much faster. This is really cool, and I wish other applications had this feature. Also, its latency isn't bad either, probably on par with OneNote, but definitely not as good as the Samsung Notes. So for pen support, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. Okay, so let's move on to organization. So I like the fact that there are different styles of notebooks and you can easily change the title and the color of them. This makes it easy to color code certain subjects, for example. But what I don't like is that there are no file options. So you cannot put a notebook in a notebook, you cannot split a notebook into different sections. This again, it goes with the theme of this application being very simple, very bare to the bones. It's good if you want something lightweight, something that's not complicated. But for me personally, as a university student, this is not enough. I mean, even if you don't want to have it in folders, I would like the option to at least reorganize. So say like I had a subject here, but then I wanted it to go next to something else. It would have been a good idea just to be able to hold and press and then be able to move your notes and reorganize them. Now when it comes to syncability, it does have its own cloud. However, obviously you do need to create an account, sign in, but when you do that, you can access it online. However, just because of the fact that this is one extra account that you have to make, whereas for example, OneNote, you already have an Outlook account, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. This gives a total score for Bamboo Paper of... So I just want to touch up on two other applications that I came across. These are two very popular note-taking applications, but unfortunately they don't really fit the title of this video because although they're technically free, in order to make the most of them, you really do have to buy those tool packages. Now the good thing is for both of these applications, you don't need to upgrade the whole application. You can actually choose to buy and select certain packages, the ones that you require. So the first one I want to talk about is INKredible. This is a very good note-taking application as well. I'm just going to touch upon quickly on the design. I do find it quite old-fashioned. I do find also that it's quite cramped. Here on the side, they've put all the options. They haven't really spread it around at the top as well. I'm not going to go into this application at all, but I just want to highlight a very good feature of this. And I definitely think it's worth mentioning for someone who's looking for this particular feature. So with INKredible, you can essentially add as many folders as you want, which to me is really useful. So what you do, you just click on the add button here. Click add folder, so you can go into that folder, add notes or PDFs, but what you can do is also add another folder. So let's call it folder 2. So now we have a folder inside a folder, and I can go into this and I can add another folder. You can actually add an unlimited amount of folders, but you do need to pay for it. But if you're looking for that extra organization ability, something that OneNote doesn't provide, this could be your application. The next application I also think is worth mentioning is Squid. Squid definitely has a better design than INKredible. It's very easy to navigate. You can attach PDFs and notes. But what I want to highlight here is the fact that Squid has the most paper backgrounds to any application that I've tested so far. Now you do need to pay for most of these. So you have the standard ones, which is these lines. You have the grids, pretty much every kind of grid you want. But then where it gets interesting is maths and engineering section. So now you have these strange backgrounds that I have actually no idea what they mean, but something that certain students or professionals would want to use because they need this. I would imagine that, mathematicians and engineers would probably find it quite difficult to find electronic versions of these paper backgrounds. But you also have music. This is again not something I've seen on any other note-taking app. Now another really interesting one is the sports section. This is really useful, for example, if you're a coach and you're constantly making plans and drawing on it. It's just something that I've not seen before. And I know it's targeted at a niche population. Most people aren't going to use this. But what about those people who do use this, people who are looking for something like this? That's just why I wanted to bring this application up, because it has a vast range of paper backgrounds and templates. I definitely think that's something you need, then go for it. Alright guys, that sums it up. Those are what I consider to be the best free note-taking applications. I know that there are loads of amazing applications that aren't free. Unfortunately, I couldn't review them because they don't fit the title of this video. But for now, let me know what you think. Is there anything that I missed? Is there a different application that you prefer to use? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you on the next TKI Tech video.